Daf Yomi, Tractate Bava Metzia, page 11a, top of the page. There is Yalfinan Metzia Miget. We derive the halacha with regard to acquiring a found item from the halacha with regard to a bill of divorce, and one sage, Abba Kohen Bardella, holds that we do not derive the halacha with regard to a found item from the halacha with regard to a bill of divorce. And if you wish, say, instead, that with regard to a minor girl, everyone agrees that we derive the halacha with regard to a found item from the halacha with regard to a bill of divorce, and she acquires an ownerless item that is, she acquires an ownerless item that is found in her courtyard. And here they disagree with regard to whether a minor boy acquires an item that is placed in his courtyard. One sage, Rabbi Yanai, holds that we derive the halacha with regard to a minor boy from the halacha with regard to a minor girl, and there should be no difference between them with regard to the halachot of acquisition. And one sage, Abba Kohen Bardella, holds that we do not derive the halacha with regard to a minor boy from the halacha with regard to a minor girl. Only a minor girl acquires items by means of her courtyard, as the Torah includes this mode of acquisition with regard to acquiring a bill of divorce. And if you wish, say, instead, that there is no dispute here at all. Rather, one sage, Abba Kohen Bardella, said one statement that a minor girl is divorced by her husband, placing a bill of divorce in her courtyard, and one sage, Rabbi Yanai, said another statement that a minor boy or girl does not acquire an item that is found in his or her courtyard, and they do not disagree. New Mishnah. If one saw people running after a found ownerless animal, for example, after a deer crippled by a broken leg, or after young pigeons that have not yet learned to fly, which can be caught easily, and he said, "My field has effected acquisition of this animal for me," it has effected acquisition for him. If the deer were running in its usual manner, or the young pigeons were flying, and he said, "My field has effected acquisition of this animal for me," he has said nothing, as one's courtyard cannot effect acquisition of an item that does not remain there on its own. Gemara. Rav Yehuda says that Shmuel says, and this acquisition mentioned in the Mishnah is effective specifically in a case where the owner is standing next to his field at the time of the acquisition, so that it has the halachic status of a secured courtyard. The Gemara raises a difficulty, but shouldn't his field affect acquisition of the animal for him, even without standing next to it? As Rabbi Yossi, son of Rabbi Chanina, says, a person's courtyard affects acquisition of property for him even without his knowledge. The Gemara answers, this statement applies only to a secured courtyard, where items remain in the courtyard without supervision. But with regard to an unsecured courtyard, if the owner is standing next to his field, yes, it affects acquisition of ownerless items on his behalf, but if he is not, it does not affect acquisition of items on his behalf. The Gemara asks, and from where do you say that in the case of an unsecured courtyard, if the owner is standing next to his field, yes, it affects acquisition of ownerless items on his behalf, but if he is not, it does not affect acquisition of items on his behalf. As it is taught in a Braita, there is a case where a landowner was standing in the town and saying, "I know that my laborers forgot a sheaf that I have in the field, which I had intended for the laborers to bring in, but since I remember it, it shall not be considered a forgotten sheaf, which must be left for the poor." Then the landowner himself forgot about the sheaf. In this case, one might have thought that it is not considered a forgotten sheaf. To counter this, the verse states, "When you reap your harvest in your field, and have forgotten a sheaf in the field, you shall not go back to fetch it. It shall be for the stranger, for the fatherless, and for the widow." Deuteronomy 24:19. It is derived from here that the phrase "and have forgotten" applies in the field, but not in the town. The Gemara clarifies this Braita itself is difficult. this Braita itself is difficult. First, you said that one might have thought that it is not considered a forgotten sheaf, so apparently the Tana speaks to prove that it is considered a forgotten sheaf, and then the Braita deduces the derivation that the phrase "and have forgotten" applies only in the field, but not in the town, which apparently means that a sheaf forgotten by the owner while he is in the town is not considered a forgotten sheaf. Rather, isn't this what the Tana is saying? In a case where the owner is in the field, if the sheaf was forgotten at the outset, it is considered a forgotten sheaf. But if it was remembered at first and was ultimately forgotten, it does not assume the status of a forgotten sheaf. What is the reason for this distinction? The reason is that since he is standing in the field beside the sheaf, his field is tantamount to his courtyard, and his courtyard affects acquisition of the sheaf for him once he remembers it. But in a case where the owner is in the town, even if the sheaf was remembered and ultimately forgotten, it is considered a forgotten sheaf and must be left for the poor. What is the reason for this? It is because the owner is not beside it, which is necessary for his courtyard to effect acquisition of the sheaf for him. Evidently, an item that is in a person's courtyard is acquired by him only if he is standing next to the courtyard. The Gemara rejects this proof. From where can it be proven that this is the reason? Perhaps the Braita should be understood in a different manner. It is a Torah edict that if the owner is in the field, it is considered a forgotten sheaf. But if the owner is in the town, it is not considered a forgotten sheaf and does not need to be left for the poor. Accordingly, the distinction would not be derived from the halachot of acquisition. The Gemara responds that the verse states, "You shall not go back to take it," Deuteronomy 24:19, which is interpreted to include sheaves forgotten while the owner is in the town. Evidently, there is no fundamental difference between a town and the field with regard to the halachot of forgotten sheaves. Rather, the distinction is due to the fact that one cannot acquire a sheaf by means of his courtyard if he is not standing next to the courtyard. The Gemara challenges this phrase is necessary to impose a prohibition upon one who takes his sheaf after he forgot it, instead of leaving it for the poor. It is therefore not superfluous and cannot be interpreted as including an additional case. The Gemara answers, if so, if the verse serves only for that purpose, let the verse say, "You shall not take it." What is added by the phrase, "You shall not go back to take it," is written to include sheaves forgotten while the owner was in the town. The Gemara challenges, but the phrase, "You shall not go back," is still necessary for that which we learned in the Mishnah in Peyah 7:4. While a landowner collects the sheaves from his field, any sheaf that remains before him as he has not reached it yet does not assume the status of a forgotten sheaf, even if he has forgotten about its existence. Any sheaf that is already behind him has the status of a forgotten sheaf, as the prohibition of "you shall not go back" applies. This is the principle. Any sheaf to which the prohibition of "you shall not go back" applies, as one would need to retrace his steps in order to retrieve the sheaf, assumes the status of a forgotten sheaf, and any sheaf to which the prohibition "you shall not go back" does not apply, meaning a sheaf that has yet to reach does not assume the status of a forgotten sheaf. The phrase "you shall not go back" is apparently necessary to teach this halakha, and it cannot be interpreted as including a case where the owner is in the town. Rav Ashi said that the inclusion of this case is derived from another phrase in the verse. The verse states, "It shall be," Deuteronomy 24:19, which is interpreted to include sheaves forgotten while the owner was in the town. Therefore, the Gemara's initial interpretation of the Braita is accepted, leading to the conclusion that the distinction between a case where the owner is in the field and a case where he is in the town is due to the halakha that one's courtyard can affect acquisition of a property for him if he is next to the courtyard, as Rav Yehuda said in the name of Shmuel. And Ula also says that the acquisition mentioned in the Mishnah is effective, specifically in a case where the owner is standing next to his field, And Rabba Bar Chana also says that the acquisition is effective, specifically in a case where he is standing next to his field. Rav Ava raised an objection to Ula from that which is taught in the Mishnah, Master Sheni 5:9. There was an incident involving Rabban Gamliel and other elders who were traveling on a ship. Since he remembered that he had not tithed the produce of his fields, Rabban Gamliel said to the others, 1/10 of my produce, which I will measure out in the future and separate from produce, is given to Yehoshua ben Hananiah, who is a Levite, and is entitled to receive the first tithe.